Welcome back to the Modern Success Show, the podcast that dissects the challenges of our time and gives you the tools to thrive. I'm your host, John.
And I'm Paul. It's great to be with you all today.
Paul, we have a heavy topic on the docket today, but an incredibly important one. It's something that millions of people are feeling, even if they can't quite put a name to it. We're talking about why the American middle class is quietly collapsing.
Quietly is the key word there, John. It's not a sudden crash, it's a slow erosion, a feeling of running faster and faster just to stay in the same place.
Exactly. For generations, the middle class was the bedrock of the American dream. A stable job, a home, sending your kids to college. It was an achievable goal for most, but the landscape has shifted dramatically.
Right. So what does middle class even mean anymore? It used to be a certain type of job, but now it seems to be defined more by a certain level of financial anxiety.
That's a sharp way to put it. Economists will point to income brackets, but the reality is more about purchasing power. And the data's stark. Since the 1970s, wages for the average worker have largely stagnated when adjusted for inflation.
Stagnated. Meanwhile, the cost of everything essential has skyrocketed.
Precisely. Let's look at the big three: housing, education, and healthcare. The cost of buying a home has outpaced wage growth by a staggering margin in most major cities.
Oh, absolutely. My parents bought their first house for what people now pay for a mid-range SUV. It's a completely different world.
It is. Then you have college tuition. It's risen over 150% in the last 20 years. So young people are starting their careers saddled with tens, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt.
And it's not just the purchase price, it's the entire ecosystem around it. The down payment is a massive hurdle. Decades ago, it was a manageable goal. Now, with home prices in the stratosphere, a 20% down payment can be more than many people make in a year, or even two.
Which just kills their ability to save, to invest, to buy that first home we were just talking about. It's a vicious cycle. And the third pillar, healthcare. Premiums, deductibles, out-of-pocket expenses, they've become a crushing burden for families, even with those so-called good insurance. One medical emergency can wipe out years of savings.
It's like a three-front war on your wallet. And we haven't even mentioned just the day-to-day inflation on things like groceries and gas.
Right, so you have stagnant wages on one side and exploding costs on the other. The gap between them is the space where the middle class is collapsing.
So beyond those big three, what are some of the other, maybe less obvious pressures that are squeezing people?
A great question. I think the nature of work itself has fundamentally changed. The concept of a stable 40-year career with one company with a pension at the end, that's largely a relic of the past.
Totally. The gig economy, freelancing, contract work, it offers flexibility, which is great, but it often comes at the cost of stability, benefits, and a predictable income.
Exactly. Job security has been replaced by income insecurity. And this ties into another major factor: debt. We talked about student debt, but there's also the explosion of credit card debt. When wages don't cover costs, people turn to plastic to fill the gap.
And that's a trap. The interest rates are brutal, and it becomes a hamster wheel that's incredibly difficult to get off of.
It is. Another undercurrent here is automation and AI. We're seeing technology displace jobs that were once staples of the middle class, from manufacturing to administrative roles, and now even creative and analytical jobs are being impacted.
Right. The ground is constantly shifting under our feet. You can't just learn a trade and be set for life anymore. You have to be constantly reskilling.
That's a key point we'll come back to, and let's not forget the psychological impact of all this. The constant financial stress, the uncertainty. It takes a toll on mental health, on relationships, on people's overall sense of well-being.
That feeling of precarity, like you're one bad month, one layoff, one unexpected bill away from everything falling apart.
That's the quiet collapse. It's not a single event. It's a constant grinding pressure that wears people down and erodes their sense of security and hope for the future.
Okay, so we've painted a pretty bleak picture, John. And it's real. People are feeling this. But this is the Modern Success Show, so we can't leave it there. We have to talk about solutions. What can the average person, the person listening right now, actually do about this?
Absolutely. This is the most important part of the conversation. And the first step is a mindset shift. You have to acknowledge the reality of the situation and stop playing by the old rules because the game has changed.
Right. Your parents' financial advice, while well-intentioned, might not apply to the world we live in today.
Precisely. The single most powerful tool you can develop is financial literacy. This isn't taught in most schools, which is a travesty. You have to teach yourself.
What does that look like, practically?
It starts with the basics, creating a budget you can actually stick to, not as a restriction, but as a plan for your money. You need to know exactly where every dollar is going.
Okay, so tracking your spending.
Yes, and then you have to have a plan to attack high-interest debt, especially credit card debt. That's a financial emergency. You're losing a guaranteed 20 to 25% on that money. You can't out-invest that.
That makes sense. Get the leeches off first.
Exactly. Once you have a handle on your budget and a plan for debt, the next step is building a safety net, an emergency fund, at least 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses sitting in a high-yield savings account where you can access it easily.
That's the buffer against that one bad month we talked about.
It's your fortress. It gives you options. It allows you to make decisions from a position of strength, not desperation. After that, you must start investing.
And this is where a lot of people get intimidated. The stock market seems like a casino.
It can feel that way, but it doesn't have to be. For most people, the simplest approach is the best. Consistently investing in low-cost index funds or ETFs. You don't have to pick stocks. You just have to buy the whole market and let the power of compounding do the work over time. The key is to start, even if it's just $50 a month.
The consistency is more important than the amount, especially at the beginning.
By a mile. It builds the habit. Now, let's talk about the other side of the equation. Income.
Right, because you can only cut your expenses so much.
You can't budget your way to wealth. In this new economy, relying on a single source of income is incredibly risky. You need to develop multiple income streams.
The side hustle.
Call it what you want, but the principle is sound. This could be freelancing a skill you have, like graphic design or writing. It could be starting a small e-commerce store. It could be consulting. It could be monetizing a hobby.
This also ties back to what you said earlier about reskilling. You need to be actively learning skills that are in high demand.
Always. Be a perpetual student. Look at what the market values. Data analysis, digital marketing, coding, skilled trades. These are areas where demand is high. You can learn many of these skills online, often for free or at a low cost.
So the strategy is build a strong financial defense with budgeting and an emergency fund, and then build a powerful offense with investing and multiple skill-based income streams.
That's the framework. It's about shifting your identity from just being a consumer to being an owner and a producer. You own assets that grow, and you produce value that the market is willing to pay for outside of your primary job.
It's about taking control, recognizing the system is what it is, and then building your own personal economy within it.
That is the perfect summary, Paul. It's not about waiting for the system to save you. It's about saving yourself. It's hard work, it requires discipline and a willingness to learn, but it is absolutely possible to build a secure and prosperous life even in these challenging times.
That's a powerful and hopeful note to end on, John. It's not easy, but there is a path forward.
There is, and it starts with the decisions you make today. So our challenge to you, our listeners, is to take one thing we talked about today and act on it. Just one. Calculate your net worth. Start tracking your spending. Read one article about index fund investing.
That first step is everything. Well, that's all the time we have for today on the Modern Success Show. We hope this conversation has given you both clarity and a sense of empowerment.
Join us next week as we dive into the psychology of focus and how to eliminate distractions in an increasingly noisy world. Until then, take control and build your success.